Molo Sanbonani, hello, how's it? Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Friday, yeah, boo. Welcome to it. It is the Friday edition of Vuka Nazo, your morning news analysis show. My name is Sihle Ngobese, aka Big Daddy Liberty. Welcome to it. Do me a solid favor, if you're watching this, whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube, hit that like button. That's right. Hit that like button, help the stream grow into a wider audience, and of course, share this particular stream. If you're watching on YouTube in particular, then well, subscribe. Become a part of the BDL family here on YouTube. Help me reach my goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Also, a reminder to you that we have a website, especially if you're looking to support the channel financially with a contribution of 100 Rand a month. Go to BigDaddyLiberty.com. There, of course, you'll find a payment method that suits you. With that being said, let's get this Friday show on the road and get straight into the news. Oh, oy vey. Guys, at this point, call me Negrodamus, the Black Nostradamus, because I've been calling out the future of what happens when you believe or when you support, or if you're a part of those in society who hold the terrible ideas, the terrible, toxic, often leftist ideas, these soft socialist, statist, or communist types, who unfortunately are the loudest voices in the room. If you support them, if you go with them, then you take this side of the fork, the leftist side of the fork, where there's destruction, there is misery, there is poverty, there is overly racialized everything in society. If you listen to people like us, who hold the liberty side of the pendulum, who basically speak about creating a free, prosperous, non-racial, and property-owning society, well, then you go on the right side, where effectively there's prosperity. There is a faith, flag, family, and freedom type society, one where there's jobs, there's employment, there's economic growth. But sadly, this story of Denny, the mushroom farm, yes, that's right. Let me jog your memory. We covered this issue in episode 34. Of Vuka Nazo, where I physically went out to the factory, that same factory, of course, that was gutted by a fire that was allegedly set by a small group of workers who, at the time of a labor dispute, rejected the 7% offer that Denny made, demanding an extra 1.5%, namely 8.5%, and because they didn't get their way, even though the vast majority of their fellow colleagues and employees had accepted that wage offer, but because that small gaggle of violent workers didn't accept this offer, they then proceeded to allegedly burn the factory down. And I warned you back then when I did this piece, and I said the likely outcome of this will be there will be no employment and no jobs for the over 300 workers who are based at that factory in Eshongweni, just outside Durban. And indeed, as I said, as I choreographed and called the future, if I can call it that, that's exactly what has come to fruition. Let me read this Business Day piece, which basically details how Denny, the factory, has now decided to lay off or retrench 315 employees because it simply found business conditions untenable to contend with. This Business Day piece cites how a well-placed source within the JSE-listed Libstar Holdings, which owns Denny Mushrooms, and a competitor told Business Day on Tuesday that 315 farm employees, including artisans, pickers, office workers, and managers, have been retrenched after a decision was taken in December to shut down operations for good. The article continues to say, however, Denny Mushrooms said on Tuesday that while all its staff had been retrenched, a decision had not yet been made regarding the longer-term future of the farm, saying the insurance claim had not yet been finalized in full. End of quote. That's right. Denny's is literally caught in a situation of a rock or a hard place because it cannot continue paying salaries for people who are literally unable to work at a factory that's not bringing in revenue. Bear in mind, this has a massive trickle-down effect on the economy and indeed the agri-sector, considering the associated individuals who are dependent on this factory. It isn't just the 315 employees. Think about suppliers, think about customers who basically, given that Denny produces about 50% of South Africa's mushroom needs, is a big player to suddenly find itself shutting down its doors like this. And of course, think of those employees. And I'm not talking about those who allegedly set fire to the factory. They deserve exactly what's coming to them. But those employees who perhaps weren't a part of this, who perhaps even were intimidated by the violent thugs who they may have had as colleagues who allegedly set fire to this factory. Though I'm thinking about those 300 employees, most of whom, 80% of whom were women who prior to this were desperately in need of this income. There is a devastating effect when we continue to allow the violent leftists in this country who ruin things for everybody to continue to dictate things, either through bad policy, as is mostly how they operate, or invariably violence, which is often how they enact what they want. This is the true cost of bad policy and listening to bad actors in our society. It is a massive cost to bear. And for the province of KZN in particular, another nail in the coffin of making this province almost uninvestable. Like, you simply cannot plow money into this factory. And I'll be very surprised if Denny has any intention of rebuilding this facility or even further investing in this province. Compound this issue of the particular arson they faced with, of course, the July riots that we had here that destroyed investor confidence. KZN and the situation in this province in terms of our economics is looking rather grim. All right, which brings me, of course, to our favorite time of any Friday episode, where we look at who the champ of the week is, or perhaps the loser or Moemish of the week moment. This week we have a Moemish of the week, and the Moemish is the African National Congress, and specifically its supposed energy symposium. Yes, that's right. The Moemish of the week has to be the African National Congress, and indeed both as a political party and of course as a government, which has been absolutely shambolic and woeful on the issue of load shedding. Now, load shedding, as you'll know, has been a problem, a self-created, ANC-inflicted problem since 2008. So why make them the Moemish of the week now? Because this particular incident that I'm going to play a video of is literally a Moemish of note. Watch this.
We engage robustly in ideas. It was sometimes not a nice debate because they took to the streets.
That's load shedding. They're quite ironic.
Yeah, that's right. You saw that exactly. Now, that of course was the Secretary General of the ANC, Ufigile Mbalula, the useless Minister of Transport, who now has transitioned full-time into Luthuli House, speaking at their energy symposium. At the Luthuli House, as of course the DA was outside protesting against the ANC, and sure enough, with delicious irony, the power goes off. The very thing that they are supposedly fixing as the ANC plagues them in that very moment. Delicious irony, if there was anything. A proper Moemish of a moment. And of course, as I mentioned, the DA was outside chomping at their bits, protesting against the ANC as it described it, as its leader John Steenhuisen described it, the source of the problems in this country, the source of load shedding being the ANC. Large numbers, as you can see, making their way peacefully towards the ANC compound of Luthuli House. A very odd moment, though, of eccentric billionaire Rob Hersov addressing the crowd. I'm not sure if we were supposed to understand that as Rob joining the DA, or maybe he was just supporting. Have a look at this.
Hi, I'm Rob Hersov. I'm South Africa's chief activist, and I'm 62 years old. I'm from Johannesburg, live in Cape Town. What load shedding has taken from me is the future of this country. It's the future of our children, and it's the future of our democracy. And the ANC is directly responsible for load shedding. So we're not fighting against load shedding, we're fighting against the ANC because they have created this mess. They are responsible. Footsack ANC.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of that. I do know Rob personally. Never mentioned to me as to whether he'll be joining the DA, but nonetheless, it was interesting to see him at that particular protest. And good to see perhaps John Steenhuisen taking the charge on this particular issue of load shedding. I did mention, though, yesterday that this is all just politics. It's theatrics. And of course, this will play itself out. Much like the DA protested the load shedding, you also had the EFF protest and other political parties. It's all theatrics. At the end of the day, fixing the load shedding problem is something I've discussed on this channel before, and really it needs not politicians but instead the private sector to be at the forefront. We've got to privatize Eskom, break it up into two companies, one that generates electricity where all of its power plants are either sold off or it is run under a new Eskom of just generation, and the transmission, in other words the maintenance of the grid, that can remain with the state. It's neither here nor there. But the actual generation of electricity needs to be opened up to the private market where Eskom competes with other private sector companies who are invited. Come one, come all. I said, if you're a private sector company who wants to build a small or big coal-powered power plant, come one, come all. If you want to use our extensive gas resources to provide electricity, come one, come all. If you want to use the hippie energy of wind and solar and all that other stuff, come one, come all. The point is, we should be opening it up to the private sector in order to beat load shedding for good and to end a situation, as you saw with our Moemish of the week, the ANC being in charge of things. End that and you'll fix load shedding. All right, that's it for this episode of the Friday edition of Vuka Nazo. A bit of a shorter one, maybe not, maybe so, I don't know. But nonetheless, if you like how we begin your news mornings, then you'll love our friends over at the Daily Friend who help you wrap up your news day. They come to you live Mondays to Thursday at 1:30 p.m. That's dailyfriend.co.za. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Hit that like button on your way out and please share this video. Tell your friends about Vuka Nazo. Let's help grow this damn show. I know you guys like it. Help other people join it and like it too. Speaking about joining us, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Help us reach our goal of 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Remember guys, we have a website. Find us at BigDaddyLiberty.com. With that being said, enjoy your weekend. I'll see you Sunday at 8 p.m. for Liberty and Friends. Woo! Boy, oh boy, as we wrap up this news week, I'm going to have some interesting folks on that panel. So make sure you join us Sunday for Liberty and Friends. And until then, I'll see you again on Monday next week for another episode of Vuka Nazo.